What up, swashbucklers? You're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 3. My name is Phil Johnson. I am your host for the show. Lots of cool things happening this week. Thank you for tuning into episodes number 1 and number 2 last week. We got off to a nice, strong start, and it's great to see the positive feedback that's been happening. So thanks. Here we are at the next episode. This is really cool. My guest today on the show is Tom Mason of Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. So this is my first musical guest, and Tom and I talk a lot about the lifestyle of an independent musician and how going to where you didn't think you were going to be in order to carve out a career for yourself. So it's very much similar to the way that my career has panned out. Except I don't play pirate music. I do comedy stuff. But it was a left turn, and pirate music was sort of a left turn for Tom, too. So we talk a lot about being a musician in modern life, and it's a very cool interview. There's one small little not-so-good thing in that the last 10 minutes or so of the interview got glitched. Somehow I had a sound problem, and it's all fuzzy and distort-y. So I left it in here in case you want to kind of listen through the fuzzy distort-y to get the whole thing. But it's hard to redo an interview after the fact, so I left it in, I didn't cut it out. You can listen to it, or you can kind of jump ahead 10 minutes when it starts to get fuzzy. So I apologize for that. So far, it hasn't happened on any other interviews because I've been using a slightly different system, and I'm still trying to get all the sound stuff worked out on here. But it'll all come together. It'll be good, friends, I promise. So the interview with Tom is very, very enjoyable. Even if you're a musician, you'll learn some cool things. If you're not, you're going to get an inside track on what it's like to be a musician in this modern day and age. And of course, after the interview, I will play one of Tom's songs because, duh, why would I not do that? And I'll actually play the song that brought him into the whole pirate music thing in the first place, and it's called Pirate Song from his album Blue Buccaneer. So you'll hear that after. The shows last week, I did Reading at the Wind River Casino, and I did the Hot Dogma Brewery in El Granada. Reading was fun. It was not quite as large a show, or quite as large an audience as we usually have there, but I went and picked up Mean Dave, my feature act, and we tromped on up there and put on the best show that we could for the folks that were there, and everybody seemed to have a good time, so that was great. And El Granada, Hot Dogma Brewery, holy cow, my goodness, what an audience they had there. That place was packed to, I'm pretty sure, probably beyond the standards that the fire department would have liked. But wow, what an audience. They were super cool. That was a great show in El Granada. And I'm going to play you some Mean Dave, because Mean Dave featured for me in Reading, and Mean Dave's a funny dude, also not that mean. So he's a buddy of mine. I'm going to play you a little Mean Dave after the interview here today, too. So what else we got going on? This week, shows, I'm going to be at the Washington Hotel in Oakland on Thursday, August the 20th. I think that's the 20th. Yeah, August the 20th at the Washington Inn in Oakland, headlining the Comedy Oakland show. That's my only show this week because I am in the midst of throwing my parents a 50th anniversary party, which has been in the planning stages for months. And my dear friend Lindy has been so helpful on the whole thing, and my brother's chipping in the photo slideshow and the whole thing. So we're spending a ton of dough to congratulate my parents on 50 years of marriage, and I think that's pretty cool. Cause me. If it weren't for them, there would be no me. Yeah. So that's happening this weekend. Yesterday, though, this past weekend in California, it's been the hottest days we've had all year. It was over 100 degrees. And so over the weekend on Sunday, I had to do yard work. See, I have this large jasmine bush just outside my studio here that covers the whole fence, and it's about 3 feet deep. And my neighbor notified me that the fence was starting to fall over because of the weight of the jasmine bush. So me not having very many weekends available to do any of that kind of stuff, I had to get out there on Sunday and rip the jasmine bush down in 100+ degree weather. And I was toasted after that, man. I couldn't function. I had lunch with my girlfriend, and I just couldn't do anything else. That was it. I was, I don't know, sunstroke. I don't know whatever you call that. I was super tired and burned out from the sun. Literally, I guess, is the way that is. So we got most of it down, still a little bit to do, but man, I got to pick better weekends to do yard work because that was a drag. My dad came over. He helped me out a little bit. He helped me out a lot. Who am I kidding? The man is 73. He helped me out a lot. He got a ton of that thing down. So good for him. He's still rocking at 73. I think that's great. Last thing, before we get into the interview, I finished a really killer book just this morning. I finished reading it, actually. It's called Pirate Hunters. So this is obviously, you're listening to the show. This book is right up your line. It's called Pirate Hunters. It's by Robert Kirsten, and it is about two guys, John Matera and John Chatterton, and they go out. This is nonfiction, by the way. They go out looking for Captain Joseph Bannister's The Golden Fleece, a ship that was sunk in the Dominican Republic in the Golden Age, way back 1680, whatever. All right. It is a super interesting story. Like I said, nonfiction, all true stuff. They actually find this pirate ship. And Robert Kirsten is a heck of a storyteller. It's not dry nonfiction. No, this dude tells a story, and it is riveting. Really, really, really a cool book. So that is Pirate Hunters by Robert Kirsten. I'll put a link to it in the show notes for this show, and you can link to it from there and grab it from Amazon, whatever you want. And hey, why not? I'm gonna put before and after pictures of my jasmine bush too, just so you can see what the heck I'm talking about and what we dealt with in 100+ degree weather. All right, let's get to this interview with Tom Mason of Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. Enjoy. Tell me a little bit about, you explain what you do, because you will explain it better than I shall.
Fantastic. I'm a singer-songwriter, entertainer from Nashville, Tennessee, and I have a band called Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers, and we travel the world playing maritime festivals and tall ships festivals and state fairs and sometimes beachside pubs. I came to Nashville as a singer-songwriter, but I did a couple tours of the Virgin Islands, and I decided I needed to write a pirate song because I was going down to the Caribbean. And a few years later, I also did some acting, so I was on the road with a Broadway tour of this show about Johnny Cash, and we would get stuck in these little towns in small cities in across America with nothing to do after the show. So we would have guitar polls, and they all said, "You got to write a musical." So I started studying pirates and writing songs for this musical. And by the time I got to 12 or 13, I thought, well, I'll put a CD together and see how that goes. And at that point, I figured out, hey, I could just put a band together and hit the road and hit the sea, as it were.
Very cool.
And, yeah.
So let's back up a little bit on that. What's your, obviously you didn't start out doing pirate music originally, so where do you come from as a musician?
Well, I actually started out on the blues, when I was first starting out, at 11 and 12 years old. I loved the blues, and as a teenager got into rock and roll, but I love all kinds of music, and so by the time I got to the pirate thing, it was like, well, these guys traveled the world, and I could do a little bit of everything I liked, and it was pretty much invent my own genre. So I love like Afro-Cuban music, and since they traveled the Caribbean, there would be a little bit of that. So, in the past, I've played more what's called Americana music, sort of alternative country, blues, rock.
Uh-huh.
And I was playing lead guitar for some acts in that genre, as well as doing my own stuff.
Neat.
And I think the more interesting singer-songwriter stuff is coming in that genre. So
that's great.
That's where I was. Yeah.
It actually sounds like musically we have a whole lot in common, because that was always my goal too, was to figure out what kind of environment I could put my music in that would let me play around with different genres and do things like that. So that's interesting. Yeah, and I hear a lot of that in your music. I think it's really cool. I love Afro-Cuban music too. I mean, how can you not? It's fantastic stuff.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
So you did the whole like Nashville singer-songwriter thing, and how did you end up in the Virgin Islands?
Well, I was playing with a band called Last Train Home. It was a band that moved here from Washington, D.C., and they would do like 2-week tours of the islands, and it was pretty much a break-even thing. Just let's go to paradise in February and get out of the cold. And then I did it with another band called the Big Happy, and I'm still doing it. And we still go for 2 weeks, and it's fun. It's
Sounds like it. I know those tours where it's like, yeah, I'm not making any money at the end of the day, but it's going to be a nice trip. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, look at this beach.
That's great. Now, how did you get involved with because you've done some acting and things like that. Is that how you got involved with the Johnny Cash show?
Yeah, yeah. Being around Nashville, it's like there'll opportunities to get into music videos and whatever, and so I started to get a little bit of that, and I decided, well, I should really learn how to act, if I'm going to take this seriously. And I'd done a little bit of it as a kid, and I went to theater school as a kid and was in plays in high school, and then gave it all up for rock and roll. So I started. I got involved with a theater company here called Actors Bridge, and started getting into their productions. And because I play a lot of instruments, I was able to get cast quite a bit. And then this chance to go on the road with the Johnny Cash thing was lucrative and fun, And after being with the show for a year, I never got sick of the music because it's Johnny Cash.
Right. Yeah. What part were you playing in the show?
It was just kind of like a utility player and a different. I've done a few different productions of the show, and sometimes I would play, Johnny Cash's brother or Johnny Cash. There was never really anybody playing Johnny Cash, and I think that was good and bad for the production. Sometimes people like a really more concrete, visage of the man himself. So.
Right. Yeah. And so that was just kind of like they were almost playing it like it was everybody but Johnny Cash in the show.
Kind of Johnny Cash was every man.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So coming out of that it's funny that you say, oh, the crowd around you was saying, oh, you really should do that, because that's how I kind of got started in what I do too. Is
really
I had a couple of goofy songs that I played at a music convention, and all the other musicians that I was jamming with were like, dude, that comedy stuff, that's what you need to be doing. And I was like, nah, that's garbage. And here I am 10 years later. Yeah, doing that. So
that's great.
Yeah, so it was a very similar sort of origin story, which is interesting. So what was the first album that you put out with the pirate music?
Well, I'd written a song called here's how much powers of clairvoyancy I have. I wrote a song called The Pirate Song, never thinking that I'd ever write another. And it's like the sing-along, we'll all go down, we'll all go down, we'll all go down with the ship. And I put that on a record earlier. First I put it on a record of a band I was in, and then my next record. And at that was the point when I was like starting to write more pirate songs, and so that sort of begat all of the other ones.
Interesting. So, what were you going to now? I mean, you don't unlike a lot of other pirate bands and things. You're not doing just old sea shanties and things like that. You're actually doing all your own writing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
And we do a few fiddle tunes, and now I'm starting. It's funny because there's at these maritime festivals and tall ships and pirate festivals, a lot of people are doing the old sea shanties, and I have a lot of respect for them. They're sort of archivists and stuff, but I'm a songwriter, so that's where I came from. And now I'm coming about it from another way. We sort of like are taking a few of those sea shanties and putting rock and roll or New Orleans beats to them, and so we're sort of, exploring the old, like we do Drunken Sailor to a Bo Diddley beat, for instance.
Oh, nice. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
So is there, in the same way that when you walk into a venue and the audience wants to hear cover songs, do you run into that at pirate festivals and things like that where people want to hear where they're requesting old sea shanties and things like that?
Luckily, not so much.
Good.
It's great. Once in a while, and sometimes we'll do a festival, and then we'll go play a bar gig in the area to for routing purposes. And like last week, we were playing somewhere, and the drummer sang "Sloop John B." And it was like one cover in a set of 3 hours of originals, and some guy came up and said, "You guys got to do more Beach Boys." The great thing is that with this band, we do a lot of sing along. Our original songs are sing alongs, and because once you get the people singing, they forget that they're not listening to a band that's going to play, or they don't get the impression that we're going to play Sweet Home Alabama for them or anything like that.
Right.
And it's been really refreshing because, they walk in and see this band that's dressed like pirates, and they're not automatically thinking that we're going to start playing Rolling Stones tunes for them.
Sure. Well, you
like pirates.
Right. Yeah, you've sort of almost shattered their assumption if they walk in and see a band dressed like pirates. Now they don't know what's going on, so they're pretty much open to anything, I would expect.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I imagine that opened up a ton of new venues and things for you that you wouldn't have played otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. And and it's kind of weird, when I go to when I book a tour of England and so forth. Sometimes the people don't know what to do with it. Oh yeah, well, a pirate band? I don't know, what is that? and because I think they have these preconceived notions that it's all shtick. I think the fact that I started writing the songs for a musical and wanted to make them somewhat serious and delve into the inner lives of these people, and actually come from a real place, made them a little less shticky, a little less hokey with the pirate thing. Because there was some, honesty. I mean, I like to sing songs about the human condition, and these guys had the same struggles as us, and traveling in a pirate ship, I sort of likened to being in a band in a van, broken down somewhere, and and you go days without a gig, go days without a raid. And then later on, the shtick started creeping in.
That is a terribly apt analogy. Now that I've spent many a night sleeping in the empty van. Yeah, oh yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, and we all kind of looked like pirates, and probably smelled like pirates as well.
That's fantastic. So, so you're playing tall ships festivals, you're playing pirate festivals, you're doing fairs, you're doing bar. I mean, that opens up an amazing amount of things. I think more so than most people would think. I think if you were to talk to other musicians, they would probably go, "Oh man, that seems like super limiting to be stuck in a shtick like that," where it's really the opposite, which is what I found in comedy music as well. It really opens up things a whole lot more than you might otherwise think.
Exactly. And I love that you're doing the thing with the guitar, because it's like, you can get away from some of the nakedness that a stand-up comic feels,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do. Well, I do stand up as well. And boy, I'll tell you, the first time you put that guitar down, it's definitely naked.
Yeah.
So there was something else I just thought of I was going to ask you. I really should take notes during these things. Thank goodness for editing later.
Oh yeah, fine.
What the heck was it? Oh, what? So what kind of? Because I mean, if you're dealing with real stories and history and things like that, rather than just sort of making up drinking songs,
Yeah.
what kind of source material are you using? Where do you go to for stories?
Well, there's such a great number of books about pirates, and about specific pirates, and I'm the kind of guy that doesn't retain anything unless I write a song about it. I have visitors from out of town, and I will have read about the person who the street is named after last week, and I've already forgotten it. But if I write a song about it, I'll remember it. And so, like, uh, there was in one book about pirates I was reading, they were talking about how when pirates were convicted, they would parade them down the streets in London, and people would throw eggs and excrement at them, and they called it the sheriff's dance. And I thought, oh, that sounds like a great title for a song.
That does.
And yeah, and so it's like, and then songs about. I also did a song about the doldrums called "Wondrous Wind," talking about ships that were just stuck in the middle of nowhere because if there was no wind, they couldn't get anywhere. And in reading about pirates, I would just find out these amazing facts about them that reflected modern problems in some ways, and in some ways didn't.
That's interesting because it's almost sort of slice of life stories, but
Yeah.
not a life anybody has
Yeah,
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. But their interiors were the same as ours.
Sure.
They might have, we might be having problems with our interface or something while they're having problems with their yardum or whatever.
So that's interesting. Do you find that with some of the audiences you're playing for, that type of stuff is almost educational for them? Because I mean, the average pirate festival goer probably knows a lot of the stories, or at least the jargon and the that kind of thing. But when you're dealing with, say, like a county fair audience who is just more normal people,
Mhm.
are they learning along the way?
Yeah, they are. And in fact, I've started doing a lot more educational programs, and sometimes it's just me and the fiddler, and we'll go to a library, and one of our songs is called "In the Service of the King," and it's about the press gangs that used to force innocent sailors. They'd get them drunk and throw them on the ship, and suddenly they were serving in the Royal Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing at this library, and I said that, I said, this is a song about the press gangs that used to force innocent sailors to join the Royal Navy, and this little girl raises her hand and says, "What's the Royal Navy?" And I have to sort of, oh yeah.
Well, let's
have to
backtrack
sort of
on that. Yeah.
yeah.
That's funny. That's really funny. So, how many dates a year are you doing with that type of thing?
Well, it varies. I'm August is looking a little barren, but September, you know, um, at this point, I'm booking myself,
Sure.
and that's where the problem lies, because in in January, February, March, I was, and even in May, I was touring Australia and the Virgin Islands, and then the United Kingdom, which was all fine and dandy. But sometimes I would forget to sit down and book dates for the future. So, right now it's oh, probably between 25 and 30 weekends a year.
That's
And
great.
yeah, working on it more.
Sure.
Like next year, there's a bunch of tall ships festivals. I'd like to do that, and they go from, like, this year it's going to be, or next year it's going to be the Great Lakes, and the following year it's going to be the West Coast. So I'll try to make it out for that.
Well, definitely. When you come out to the West Coast, I will be there. I want to check that.
How did you get interested in pirates yourself?
For me, it was growing up as a kid. It was all the Disney influence. It was Peter
Yeah.
Pan and Pirates of the Caribbean and that type of stuff. And then I just started sort of diving into the history of it more. And I'm kind of a history guy anyway. And
Yeah.
so yeah, once I just started reading about it, and I have a very almost conflicted relationship with the whole thing because it's almost like being a fan of serial killers.
Yeah.
Where you go, these guys were not nice people, but I'm still kind of enthralled with the lifestyle,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's where I came from. I have pictures
Hmm.
of Johnny Depp and Captain Hook all over my home office. So
No, that's great.
that was the
Yeah,
genesis.
and I think one of the things is that that they fell into this life. Some of them just out of economic necessity. Really, I mean, a lot of them would were in the Royal Navy, and when peace broke out, they were shit out of luck. And so they would. And sometimes a pirate ship would attack another ship and give these people the choice of, well, you serve with us or you don't, or you die,
Right.
and we'll sit you off to drift. So
Which
and
led
I saw, did you happen to see the film Captain Phillips, the Tom Hanks
I did, in
film?
fact. Yeah, that was great.
I love the way that sort of like uh, humanized those the Somali pirates. I mean, because when I heard of that, the Somali pirates, we tend to think of criminals in a certain light, and then without ever, looking at what they really are, where they
Sure.
came from, what their choices are.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, and the Somali guys don't have nearly the fashion sense as
yeah, exactly.
that's the biggest problem. I think
Uh,
if they wore nice coats and cool hats, I think they'd get a lot more acceptance.
yeah, yeah. Let's go join the smaller
Right.
pirates.
I'm gonna be the new PR guy for the Somali pirates, I think. So I want to talk about your live show a little bit because I mean, speaking of that, you guys go pretty full bore with the clothing, and I mean, it looks like a wild show.
Yeah, it's fun. And you know what? When I was it's funny because um, in rock and roll music, and rock, I've lived a life playing rock music or sometimes country or blues or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, Something has been missing, and you never hear about it. And that's when I was growing up. Among my musical heroes were also comedians like the Marx Brothers and Chaplin and Keaton
Sure.
and slapstick comedy. And I don't know, I don't really hear slapstick tossed around much, especially in music.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of what there's a lot of that in our show. I'm out in the crowd, standing on tables and sitting on laps and,
Uh-huh.
and taking people's cameras and stuff like that. And that, I just that's something that just seems to be missing quite a bit from modern entertainment.
Yeah,
You know?
that's an interesting take. It's funny that you call it slapstick because I mean slapstick is almost not even part of modern comedy so much anymore.
Yeah.
We see little hints of it, but it's just not part of the go-to formula for comedians anymore. But when you do it, it really captures an audience's attention really quickly. Because I have one bit that I was doing for a while where I would fall on the floor. That was it.
Yeah.
And there was a premise behind it and whatever. And that would grab people's attention so fast because they're like, oh my God, why is this guy on the floor all of a sudden? And,
Yeah.
And I think when there is some of that sort of action in it, it's just more engaging. And not to go overboard with it, but it's really something that really does pull an audience in.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just another part of the show.
Yeah.
It's an added. Yeah.
Now I have to imagine that your show did not come out fully formed. Where did it kind of start?
Well, luckily, I think the first time that the band, I'd already, I've done plenty of gigs myself and had bands before. But the first tour I did with the Blue Buccaneers was one of the 2-week tours of the Virgin Islands, where we were playing 3 sets a night, and it was a great place to just workshop stuff, and as time goes by, you think of more things, and to a certain extent, the good thing about a musical show is that it's all the songs, and then whatever you can do around that is just like gravy, icing,
Sure.
And so I think it's still evolving, and we do a Pirates Christmas show now, that I'd actually like to really turn into a tour, Performing Arts Center tour.
That sounds actually really interesting.
It's really fun.
Yeah, what kind of stuff are you doing in the Christmas show?
Well, I'd already put out an instrumental slide guitar Christmas CD.
Okay.
Probably about 15 years ago, I suppose, and then and that's done well, and it is pretty much like dobro versions of classic Christmas carols with like grooves, like Latin grooves and New Orleans second line grooves.
Oh, nice.
And so I thought, well, let's do it. Let's do a Pirate Christmas CD. And I wrote a few tunes. The first tune I wrote was called "Yo Ho Ho, It's a Pirate's Christmas," and it's about these pirates who are sailing their last raid in the year in the Northern Sea. They had to get back to the Caribbean before the ice hits, and they run into a corpulent Spaniard named with Santa Claus, and they help him save Christmas. It's a beautiful little tale, and then we did some takeoffs on like Deck the Halls, Deck the Deck with Hall of Booty and so forth, and some instrumentals, some kind of sweet tunes. And it also gave me the opportunity to announce from the stage that I feel that this is probably one of the better pirate Christmas CDs out there. It's like friends of mine, songwriter friends of mine, writing polkas because they think that they could maybe get a Grammy because the polka field wouldn't be quite as flooded as the
others. Yeah, you take it where you can get it. It's all right.
Yeah.
That sounds actually really cool. As someone who pretty much hates Christmas music, that is Christmas music that I would actually listen to. So I'll definitely have to check that out. And as a matter of fact, my good friend Tim Babb, also a comedian, just told me the other night that he is starting a Christmas podcast. So I'll have to hook you up with him too. And he would love that kind of stuff. Yeah, he would love that kind of stuff. So that would make a really interesting sort of holiday tour that you could do that I think would kill in a lot of
kids, families love pirates, kids like pirates, adults like pirates. It's great with our show. It's so fun because it's always fun, I mean, the people, there's no, we slip in some poignant moments here and stuff, but everybody's out having a good time. And with the kids, kids love us because we're pirates, and then the adults notice that these are Nashville musicians, and Nashville songwriters. So it's not just yo ho ho.
Right there, you guys. More. Yeah, it's legit music, which is it's an important place to come from. Anytime where you're doing something that is, for lack of a better word, shticky,
Yeah.
The skills of a real songwriter shine through quickly, and I do the same thing with mine, where it's got to be a real song and then it's funny, as
Yeah,
opposed to
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to, oh, I've got a joke that I'm going to run into the ground with two chords for the next 4 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like when your song got stuck in my head the other day. It's like, damn it.
Yeah, that's it.
You
Oh,
know?
hang on one second.
Okay.
My air conditioner went on. I had to turn that off. Yeah, and for me, when I write a song, if I don't have people coming out of the show saying, "Oh my God, I can't get that song out of my head," then it doesn't even stay in the show. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and that one that you listen to, "Bad Porno Sex," that one's been one of the greatest hits for a while here. So yeah, people like that one. So what is, I mean, outside of the Christmas show and things like that, what's coming up next? Are you working on a new album or?
Well, let's see. We're going to go out and do a festival in Bay City, Michigan.
Nice. I've been there.
In Detroit. Did you say you've been there?
I've been there. Yes.
You're kidding?
Yeah. Played a gig somewhere out there.
Great. Well, there's a festival. They usually have a tall ships festival every third year, and on the off years they have a ballads and brews festival, and where they have maritime music. So we're doing that, and then later in the summer we're going to go up to the Minnesota State Fair, which is huge. And they have deep fried everything, and everything on a stick you can want. And we've actually done that fair a number of times, and it's really fun. And then, of course, September 19th is Talk Like a Pirate Day, so
Yes.
we'll be playing every opportunity we can then.
And you wrote the theme song for Talk Like a Pirate Day, did you not?
Yeah, we, it was great. Another Virgin Islands connection is when I went down to St. Croix with this band, I happened to meet a newspaper reporter named John Old Chum Bucket Bauer.
Uh-huh.
And he's one of the creators of Talk Like a Pirate Day. He and the other guy, Captain Slappy, he goes by, were playing racquetball when he lived in Oregon. And they just started shouting, "Arr!" and starting swearing like pirates. And he said, we really should have a day devoted to this. And after a few years, Dave Barry, the columnist, picked up on it, and then it really just took off. And so after befriending John, I said, let's write a song for this. And I had some ideas and shot them by him, and we sort of did it over email, and so now we have the theme song for the holiday.
That's great. Every holiday needs a theme song. Get on Arbor. You need to get on Arbor. Yeah, Arbor Day needs one. There's no songs for Arbor Day. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should write a Secretary's Day song. There's got to be some material there.
Yes.
And that's very cool. So you've been you got in on the ground floor of the Talk Like a Pirate Day thing.
Yeah. Well, I pretty much I kind of got in on about the fourth floor. So is that even possible?
Yeah.
But retroactively, I think somebody had already written something, but it wasn't as simple and easy to sing.
Uh-huh.
It's got to be easy to sing. And then that song, when we do that song live, we get 7 or 8 people up on stage with us, and there's a verse about dancing a peg leg jig, and they all have to dance on one leg. And so it's a fun visual thing. But our sing-alongs are talk like a pirate, talk like a pirate, talk like a pirate. It's pretty simple.
Yes. Keep it simple so all the drunk people know the words. That's always been my motto.
Yes, exactly.
That's very cool. So, I mean, since you're working with one particular theme in the music, I guess I have 2 questions. Do you think you'll ever, do you ever feel like you're running out of ideas to sing about on that theme? And are you still writing stuff outside of that theme as well?
I am Both. I'm too concerned about running out of scenes. If I
Hang on one second. We got fuzzy again.
the questions. Well, I'm not worried about running out of material because if I do, it's just that I'm not working hard enough. You know, and keeping it interesting. I sometimes look at that as a possibility, but I think there's so much more to be said, and I'm also writing other stuff too, and occasionally I'll go out and do like house concerts and so forth, do solo gigs of my other material, but as a singer-songwriter, and especially in Nashville, where there's so many of us, it was so refreshing. There's so much of this me thing. It's like, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me.
Right.
And I came up with this pirate idea, and it was like, here's Pirate CD, take it or leave it. It's like, if you like pirates, you like this.
Right.
It was easy to, I think sometimes people create characters. I don't know if that's why Dylan, when he started out, he changed his name and he invented all these facts about his life which weren't true in the least bit. But he was able to present himself as this character, and I think that's a little bit easier to do than having to throw yourself onto the fire. And so now when I do that, it's not so. When I do throw myself on, fire and put myself out there, it's not so life or death.
Yeah.
It's like, I go back and do the pirate thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like I have other ideas for the CDs. I want to do a sort of a record with a bunch of old sea shanties, like I was talking about, with modern grooves to it. And then I want to do I've been writing songs for a blues Buccaneers CD, So
That sounds great. That sounds very cool. So, I would imagine, since you're a roving band of pirates, I need one good road story.
I should have thought of this ahead of time, Phil.
I just thought of it myself.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Damn. That's something you should always have in your back pocket for an interview. Damn.
Comedians, and we always have road stories in our back pocket because that's all we talk about with each other.
Yeah, exactly. And musicians too. But I'm always on the listening end. Gosh. I'm falling short.
That's okay. If one comes to you, we'll pop it in.
Okay.
So, do you have a favorite pirate?
Well, Blackbeard was the big showbiz pirate.
Okay.
He was like, because he would light his beard on fire. He would weave these fuses, what I assume was some sort of sparkler or something like that, into his beard and his hair.
Uh-huh.
And as they were approaching another ship, and their victims would just surrender immediately because they would see this devilish visage approaching them, and thought, oh no, we're goners now. So Blackbeard was a great one. There was another another pirate named Henry Avery who was early. He was like in the 1690s.
Uh-huh.
And he was another like a victim of circumstance. He was on a crew that went to Spain, and they had been promised all this money and stuff. And after a year of no action, of not sailing and not getting paid, he and some of the other crew members mutinied and just took the ship, you know, because they wanted to save their ass.
Uh-huh.
And so he did, and they took some ships, and they took this massive ship called the Ganj-i-Sawai. It was this great mogul ship, and you know, legends had it that he fell in love with a slave girl on the deck, and then he managed to make it to the Caribbean and smuggle himself back into England, and then he had like it was kind of like a raging bull kind of end, you know. He entrusted some jewels to some investors, who in turn, you know, fooled him on the way, you know, saying, well, no, we don't have to give you the money because you're a pirate and we can just turn you in. So it was kind of like the Raging Bull character when he, you know, took all the jewels out of his belt,
Right.
you know, and brought it to the pawn shop. So Henry Avery was another one.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it all becomes songs.
Yes, it all becomes songs.
You're right. There's probably an endless well of things that could be sung about in there. Well, that's really great. Well, this has been super fun, Tom. I'm really glad to get to talk to you. And did we miss anything? Is there anything you want to add? Something you want to promote?
Oh, no, just Tom Mason. And come to our Facebook page and hate us. And are you coming to Nashville? Are you coming to Nashville at all?
Yeah, I would like to soon. I have to book something out that way myself. So tommason.net, and that'll go in the show notes and all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna play some of your music at the end of the episode, and it's gonna be all good.
Thank you so much, Phil.
You bet.
And thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, friends. That was my interview with Tom Mason of Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. Super interesting guy. I really like that the songs are songs and then they're piratey. It keeps the quality of the work up there. You can find Tom Mason at tommason.net. So be sure to go visit him, pick up some more of his music. It's going to be great. I am actually going to, normally I would play some music and some comedy to sort of smooth you back into modern life here, but since we have a musical guest on today, I must play some Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers for you. So first, you're actually going to hear some comedy from my pal Mean Dave, like I told you at the beginning of the show. A short clip of Mean Dave in, I think it's from a show in Santa Rosa, California, he told me. Very funny stuff. And then after that, we're going to hear the pirate song from Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers. You can find Tom Mason at tommason.net, and you can find Mean Dave on Facebook at facebook.com/meandavesknowthere. Know there. It's no there, not that, not there, like the Cheech and Chong. I don't know. I think he misspelled it, really. But if you go on Facebook /Mean Dave's Know There, or just look up Mean Dave, how many can there possibly be? You will find my pal Mean Dave, and you can witness some more of his funny. So here we go. First up, some Mean Dave. Second, right after that, Tom Mason and the Blue Buccaneers with Pirate Song.
A lot of times at these comedy shows, I'm the one who gets accused of looking like the rapist or the serial killer of the comedy show. I'm glad you find that funny. I'll just say that for those of you who are smart, if you take a good look at me, you'll realize underneath all this hair is a lazy man. I don't have the time, the patience, or the energy to rape or serial kill any of you. All right? Barely have energy to have consensual sex most of the time these days. I look at sex the same way as I look at sports. I'd rather watch professionals do it better on television. It's safer, I can do other things. So, that's injury.
Come splice the main brace, me arteries, you fools. You'll soon be the dinner for bloodthirsty schools. I won't be unswaggled, so don't even try. The life that you've chosen, you'll never be dry. You're a scallywag blackguard, come share me some grub. You'll wear a hempen halter as you swing from the log, to heave to and say a few prayers as you drink. It's to Davy Jones' locker you surely will sink, and we'll all go down. Yes, we'll all go down. We'll all go down with the ship. Of thunder, me matey, drink it on down. There's danger ahead, you'll be needing this round. Guzzle that grog, you lasses and lads. Say goodbye to the landlocked lives that you had. 45 fathoms or further you'll go. You'll be Salmagundi for the fish down below. Don't hang your jib, let the drinking begin. So heave to and sail, 3 sheets to the wind, and we'll all go down. Yes, we'll all go down. We'll all go down with the ship. Drink it on now. There's danger ahead, you'll be needing this round. Don't hang your chin, let the drinking begin. And heave to and sail, 3 sheets to the wind. We'll all go down. Yes, we'll all go down. Well, we'll all go down with the ship.
There you go. I hope you enjoyed today's episode number 3 with Tom Mason and Mean Dave and me, your host, Phil Johnson. Be sure to, this is a brand new show, and everything that you can do to tell your piratey friends and your non-piratey friends about the show really, really, really helps. So go out, spread the word. We'll be up on iTunes in a few weeks once we backlog a couple more episodes. You can find the show at underthecrossbones.com. You can find my work in comedy and music at philjohnsоncomedy.com. And, of course, go visit Tom Mason at tommason.net and Mean Dave on Facebook. It's been a pleasure. I'll talk to you next week for episode number 4. Thank you.